All right, so welcome to the podcast. This is episode 2, and we have Casey Chadwell from Concealed Tactics. We're going to be talking about the Alex Pretti killing in Minnesota and some of the aspects surrounding that. Casey, why don't you go ahead and start out?
Oh, man. Where do you want to start? I guess I'll start with introducing myself. Casey Chadwell. I live in Kentucky. I have a firearms training business, Concealed Tactics here, do law enforcement and civilian training. Mainly handguns, have been dabbling the last probably year and a half in rifle. Problem with rifle is not a lot of people want to learn that, and I get it. I mean, you want to train with what you're going to be having on your person the most, and that's going to be 90% of the time it's going to be a handgun. Very rarely you be out walking around with a rifle. So I know I'd posted some things on Facebook, and you had reached out, wanted to do an interview, and so here we are. I'd done the original post because some things that Trump had said, and some things that Kash Patel had said. Trump had said if you're carrying a firearm out on the street with 2 loaded magazines, you're a criminal. Only criminals do that. And then,
which we know is not the case.
Yeah. And Kash Patel said, I don't forgot what Kash Patel said now. He said, you're not allowed to take a firearm and 2 loaded magazines to anywhere you want. And that's blatantly false. So I'd made a kind of a snide little comment or post on Facebook, got a lot of traction. So basically, from what I could tell from the shooting, I think it'll be justified.
Yeah.
I think it'll be investigated and it'll be found justified. Only because to find it unjustified in a law enforcement shooting, there's got to be a lot to happen. I don't think it was murder. I don't think they went out there with the intention of shooting somebody that day. I don't think they went out there with the intention of shooting this Alex Pretti. I think a lot of mistakes were made on both sides, and it led to somebody's death, which is always going to be tragic.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot, in that type of situation, of course, there's a lot of things going on, and, and you're reacting like it's easy. We were talking before, like it's easy for us to go back and reanalyze everything, right? And like in that moment, it's a lot different for a real live situation.
Yeah, law enforcement officers, they don't have the luxury of being able to go back and watch slow-mo video and from 8 or 9 or 10 different angles as we've seen in this particular shooting. I don't think that Border Patrol, I don't think ICE went out that day saying, hey, we're going to kill somebody.
Right.
I think there was a lot of mistakes made, again, on both sides. You had, Border Patrol agents, they made some mistakes. You had Mr. Pretti, he definitely made some mistakes. So I guess really kind of walk through what we've seen on the video was Border Patrol pushed a young lady or I'm not how old she was. It was a female pretty aggressively, which is I don't really think. I mean, I don't know what was being said or what was happening at that particular moment to get her pushed like that, but it seemed a little aggressive to me in the video. Again, Sunday morning quarterbacking this thing, it's pretty easy for me to say that. It looked like Pretti tried to get in between Border Patrol and that lady. He ended up getting sprayed with pepper spray with mace.
Right.
That's not a good feeling. People are saying that the video shows that Pretti had hit the officer, the Border Patrol officer. I didn't see that, but again, I could be missing a video here or there that I haven't seen from a certain angle. So I don't want to say he didn't. If he did, I don't think it was on purpose. I think he was trying to just block his face from getting hit with mace.
Yeah.
you touch a law enforcement officer, it don't take much for it to be considered assault.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
from there, they were able to go hands on. 7 guys had him down on the ground, trying to get him to flatten out, get him restrained. It looked to me like Pretti. It didn't look like he was really. Obviously, he was resisting.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty evident. What wasn't evident was him really trying to fight back. It looked more like he was just kind of stiffening up and resisting being arrested. It didn't look like he was fighting with them.
Right.
At some point, he had a firearm tucked into the small of his back, and it looked like an inside the waistband holster.
Yeah.
On his right side. Terrible place to carry a firearm, by the way.
Especially in this weather.
Yeah, well,
Right.
I mean,
Slip and fall is bad. Yeah.
well, not only that, but if that wasn't Border Patrol that was on top of him,
Yeah.
and he needed to get to his firearm, it'd be awfully difficult for him to get to his firearm.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
small the back carry. I don't really think that's a very good idea, but that's me.
Yeah.
So at some point, somebody seen the firearm. They probably yelled "gun" again. That's something that we haven't heard from the video. We haven't seen
Right.
that. I'm sure one of the Border Patrol agents, yelled "gun." He was down on all fours. At one point, there was a Border Patrol officer that was really teeing off on his head. And I mean, he was really punching him pretty good there. 4 or 5 good licks from what I've seen. Didn't flatten him out. It looked like an officer come in, wearing a gray shirt, I believe, a gray jacket, a gray hoodie, something like that. He reached over. He was on Pretty's left side. He reached over, grabbed the firearm, unholstered it, turned around, walked off. Some people are saying the firearm went off. It didn't look like his finger was on the trigger. It was a SIG 320. Allegedly, they go off sometimes from when their trigger isn't pulled, even holstered.
Yeah.
I didn't see any evidence of that. I mean, it does look like in a couple pictures that the slide might be back like it was in the middle of cycling, but there's so much AI out there, even with this
Right.
case. I think there was somebody on the floor of Congress that took a blown up photo, and one of the Border Patrol agents didn't have a head because it had been altered with AI.
Right. Yeah.
And he took it in as evidence, which is just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never seen a firearm. Again, from all the videos, there's a lot of AI out there, so it's kind of hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
It looked like he had a phone. It never looked like he had anything else in his hand. I never seen him reaching for the firearm before he was shot. One of the Border Patrol agents looked like he had maneuvered around.
Yeah.
Which that's pretty sound. I mean, you don't want to shoot your buddy. That'd make a pretty long career.
Yeah.
Or a pretty short one.
Shorten it.
You're shooting your buddies. You don't want to do that. He maneuvered around, which was good. I don't think it was the best job of maneuvering that he could have made. There was a lady that was in front of Mr. Pretti. I mean, she could have been hit. Luckily, she wasn't.
Yeah.
It did look like I did see some early photos where it looked like some splash was coming up after the first shot was fired. So I say it was a clean through and through, hit pavement. Threw debris out. From there, it looked like everybody backed up. I think 2 other officers, maybe 1 other officer ended up shooting. And I think that was just basically, your buddy shooting. You're going to shoot.
That's a reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
in the moment. Yep.
Sympathetic fire. Your buddy's doing it, so you're doing it. You don't know what he sees. You don't know what you see. Everybody shoots. I think the 2 guys that fired, obviously they're on administrative leave right now pending the investigation. And, that's good. You don't want guys out there that's going to be second guessing everything. You need to give them time to kind of get their mind around everything. But
yeah,
from what I seen, the firearm had been removed. The firearm was probably a good 8 feet away, 6 to 8 feet away when he was shot the first time.
Yeah.
Sunday morning quarterbacking it. I don't think he should have been shot.
Right. Yeah.
I think Sunday morning quarterbacking it, if the agents who pulled the trigger that day could see all the video from all the different angles, they probably wouldn't think they needed to.
Yeah. And I want, for the sake of the audience, I kind of want to like clarify that we're not, we're not anti-ICE, we're not anti,
Oh, no.
immigration
Yeah.
reform and enforcement, and I think that from what you had talked to me about, like your comment got, and obviously in the comments,
Yeah.
Your post got a lot of blowback from that, and you were mentioning some aftermath of that also.
Yeah, so I had somebody I really like, somebody I really respect. He's an older gentleman. I say older, he's a few years older than me. He's probably in his early 60s, late 50s. He was like, "Man, I can't believe you're taking up for these guys." And I'm like, I'm not taking up for this individual. I'm not taking up for the left. I haven't crossed the fence, and I'm not going to have pink or purple hair tomorrow or anything like that. I'm not going to be wearing a dress or nothing like that to my next concealed carry class. But I'm not taking up for the individual or the political views that he had. What I was standing up for was his right to have a firearm.
Right.
It probably wasn't the smartest thing he's ever done.
Right. Yeah. Showing up to especially with his seemingly ease of willingness to engage with officers like that. That's not a smart move at all.
Yeah. So he broke pretty much every rule that I tell all my students in a concealed carry class. I've probably had close to 1,000 students in the last 6-7 years. I think I started in late of 2018.
Yeah.
Like December, I think was my first class. It's I don't want any of my people, any of my students, I don't want them to ever have to use a firearm in self-defense.
Right.
I'd rather that training, even a concealed carry class, as little training as that is, I got to write my own here in Kentucky. The state approved it. So I wrote my own class. The state approved it, and I teach my own class. So it's not the DOJ class that most people are used to. So I do get to add in a little bit more stuff, and I got to take out some of the boring stuff. And we don't have to watch the video. I had to watch like an hour-long video that, make you not want to carry a firearm just because it's so boring. You don't want to have to sit through it. But, my concealed carry classes, that's not training. That's we're giving you the bare minimum to carry a firearm, in my case in the state of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And now you don't need it with constitutional carry here. You still have a lot of people that do it.
Right.
But if you go out of state, you still need to have a concealed carry permit.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm leaving for Oklahoma here in 2 days. I'll probably be crossing the border right about now in 48 hours, to go to Oklahoma, and I might have my firearm on me, more than one.
Yeah.
When I go. So the difference between me going to Oklahoma and him going to the protest was he was going to the protest.
Yeah.
He broke that rule. You shouldn't go anywhere with a firearm if there's a chance you may have to use it. That's not why we get training. We don't do training. We don't teach and we don't get taught. So we can shoot somebody.
Right.
We do it as a security blanket in case we ever do,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the first mistake he made was he did show up with the firearm, although he has every right to. Probably it's not the smartest thing to do. He intervened in a lawful law enforcement mission.
And I think like to clarify your point for the audience, I don't think that you're saying that you should never maybe go to because there was the guy that went to a protest and he carried and it ended up saving his life. What was that guy's name? It was several years ago now.
Oh yeah, that was
he had a rifle, but yeah.
Well, I was going to say his name, and I can't think.
I can't think of it either.
Man,
I know.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. He was 17 years old. He had no business being there.
Okay,
with
I
a
didn't
rifle.
realize that. Yeah.
He was 17 years old. I think his buddy bought him that rifle.
Yeah.
And I just seen a Facebook post from him the other day, and he said, the left said he shouldn't have been there with a gun, and he agreed 100%. He shouldn't have been there with a gun. But that gun saved his life.
Right. Yeah.
In this situation, that gun got Mr. Pretti killed. So
Yeah, and the mindset's different, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
more like if you're showing up to defend yourself and you don't intend to engage with police
Yeah.
officers,
Yeah.
but you also don't want to become a victim, So yeah, absolutely.
It's going to bother me. I've got to. I got to look his name up real quick so I can.
Go for it.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yep, Rittenhouse. Yep, yeah.
I just wrote in Kenosha and then I remembered. Yeah, so Kyle Rittenhouse. It worked out good for him, but at the same time, he's got to live with knowing he took somebody's life too.
Yep.
And just like these Border Patrol agents, it's never. You never know how you're going to react.
Yep.
We're humans, and I don't really think it's in our DNA to kill each other. I think we've kind of forced that on us. All the wars we've had, it's since the beginning of time. And, since Cain killed Abel, I think it's just been kind of I think it's been kind of pushed on us that we can do it, so we should do it. So he went to the protest armed. He shouldn't have done that. He intervened. He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
If he touched the Border Patrol agent, shouldn't have done that.
Right.
I think it was
Jumping between even though like the push on the lady was not maybe a little bit overboard, like you were saying, like him jumping in the middle of it was also antagonizing.
I always tell my students that still carry classes, you have a firearm as an armed civilian, and the law enforcement officer has a firearm. Right. You never know what each other's going through that particular day.
Yeah.
So it's best just to treat each other with utmost respect. If that law enforcement officer's having a bad day and he's not doing that, if he's breaking the law, if he's breaking your constitutional rights, then hey, do what he says, even if it's unconstitutional.
Yep.
Do what he says.
Make an issue in court if you need to. Yeah.
And get an attorney.
Yeah.
If you're in Kentucky, I know plenty of good attorneys. So we can hook you right up.
Yeah.
But where I live, I live in a pretty rural area. Friends with a lot of law enforcement out here. They're all pretty laid back guys. They try not to bring their personal life into work, and that's hard to do sometimes. I worked in the prison, and sometimes it's hard to treat everybody with utmost respect. And if you're having a bad day at home, and sometimes it gets you in some trouble. But I always tell people the best thing you can do is do whatever they say and sue them later. And you both walk away, and if you win, you're going to walk away with a little bit of money. And so
right.
So he shouldn't have done that. I haven't seen one case in the United States, at least recently, that I know of, where someone put their hand up and might have touched a Border Patrol agent or a law enforcement officer while they were being pepper sprayed, and they were charged with, and even if it was assault, you brush them by accident, you bring your hand up to block your face from the pepper spray. Never seen that lead to somebody losing their life.
Right. Yeah.
I've never seen stiffening up as a form of resisting arrest. I've never seen that lead to having to use deadly force.
Right.
11 days before this, he was involved in another interaction.
Yeah. Yep.
He kicked the taillight out of that federal vehicle.
Yeah.
Pretty good little kick he had on him there.
And it's a good indication of where Pretty's mindset was, in that moment.
Then he spit on a Border Patrol officer,
right.
And for his actions, it sounds like he might have gotten a couple broken ribs.
Yeah.
And everybody on one side of the aisle saying, well, that just proves that he was a violent person. Spitting on somebody is violent. That's disgusting and violent, and you probably do deserve a couple
bodily fluids.
Yeah. But and then that brings me back to 11 days later. If you've ever had a broken rib or even a bruised rib, it hurts to move.
Yeah, those intercostals are serious.
There were 7 guys on top of him that was trying to get him to flatten out and cuff up. And I mean, I don't understand why those 7 officers, 6 officers, whatever it was, weren't able to get him in cuffs, flatten him out, throw him in some cuffs. Tase him, pepper spray him again if you have to. Do what you got to. But in that situation, I'd like to think I wouldn't have pulled the trigger if I was in one of those Border Patrol officers' shoes. But at the same time, I don't know what they were going through at that particular time, what they were seeing, what they were hearing.
Yep. And hopefully the body cam footage will really shed some light on,
I really think, I
'cause
really
that's one of
hope that it sheds some light on
Yeah.
why he was shot. But
Because I know, like, when I was watching the video, like, I was like, "What's in his hand?" It's really too blurry, and
Yeah.
those body cams are in really close, and
Yeah.
I would assume they're decent, definition on the video. So I mean,
And
yeah,
I don't know. I seen something the other day that they said that all Border Patrol officers are going to have body cams now.
yeah,
Well, I don't know if any of those Border Patrol agents had body cams that that was involved in that. I hope some of them did.
there were. Trump just released something yesterday or today, I forget, and he said that the body cam footage is coming out, and he said it will shed
that's
light
good.
on it. So that's interesting. Yeah,
That's going to help, especially if there's audio on it.
Yeah.
where we can hear what was being
Right,
said.
right.
If he was making threats that he was going to go for his gun,
yeah,
it's still going to be hard to. There's a difference in justifying it, and to a federal investigator, whether it's DHS, FBI. I don't know who's doing the investigation. I haven't heard or seen it.
yeah,
I doubt Border Patrol is going to investigate their own shooting, so it's probably going to be somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's different having to prove that you thought in that moment that your life was in danger, or you were
Yeah.
in danger of great bodily harm.
right.
Where that's going to be pretty easy to prove for them, because that's law enforcement. They got a pretty tough job, and
Yeah.
when it comes to that, it's going to be pretty lax. And I don't want to say that in a bad way. It's going to be
Benefit of the doubt will
really-
be given. Yeah,
yeah. The benefit of the doubt's going to be given to the officers there. What's going to be harder for them to prove or to justify is what happened, why they did it, and public opinion. That's going to be a lot more difficult for them. I'm still thinking he shouldn't have been shot. I like to think if I was there, I wouldn't have shot him. But I still want to see the body cam.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, like, also for the people who are like, well, like the people you were talking about who are on your comments and all that.
Yeah.
As much as we all want to see like illegal immigrants be sent home, it really discredits our case and what ICE is doing and stuff if we're not willing to call a spade and to try to find that justification if it's there, and if not, then say that, and I think that's really what we.
Yeah. So I think everything right now is so polarized politically.
Right.
You're either right or you're left.
Yeah.
Or you're
Yeah.
further right or you're further left, and at the end of the day, that's not the way we should be as Americans.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be looking at everything from a political point of view. We need to be looking at it from a, we're all humans, and
Yeah.
what can we do? We're all Americans. What can we do to make our country better?
Yeah.
Not what can we do to bring our country down, and
Yep.
So I really hope, and I don't see it happening, sadly, that but I really do hope at the end of the day, we do kind of sit back as a country and kind of look at stuff and get a more balanced view on what's happening and what we can do, again, just to make life a little bit better, because in the country, because
And
now
think,
it's really bad.
Yeah, we were talking about like the principle aspect, like to
Yeah.
approach things with principles, and I think, like, when this type of thing happens, it's so easy to fall towards our our political alignments and our polarizations. We don't want ICE to have committed something that shouldn't have been done, of course.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to go to the defensive, but it's also easy to have to backpedal if that's not the case, and so it's so I think, like, finding that, having an open, honest conversation, and not leading into discrediting ICE and immigration enforcement and things like that, is having. That's really kind of the reason I had you on the podcast, is because I was like, Casey's view is pretty balanced, and I wanted to.
I try and do everything from a balanced view, whether it's something like this with some sadly where somebody lost their life, or even if it's something as small as something a small thing here in Kentucky that's being voted on. I try and look at everything from a balanced view, and that gets me to a lot of arguments sometimes. But,
Yeah.
as long as that's as far as it goes as an argument,
Yeah.
we can break bread later and
Right.
talk about it. That's
Yeah.
great. So,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
but go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there was a few things. Like I said, the big thing, like I said, I'm taking up for the Second Amendment.
Right.
It's a pretty important one.
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
Yeah.
You're not going to get far with free speech unless
You have.
you have the means
Yeah.
to back up or to protect yourself. Really.
Yeah.
We've seen it time and time again. Free speech is only free if you can protect yourself. So
Yeah.
the Second Amendment, in my opinion, it's one of the most important amendments. It's definitely up there. It's number 2 for a reason.
Right.
I think the founding fathers kind of realized that this was going to be crucial to a free state. So, Trump had said that only criminals to carry 2 loaded mags, and
we know that's not the case.
and so I tell all my people, firearms today. If you buy a decent quality made firearm, Ruger, Glock, Smith & Wesson, whatever, HK. If I don't say HK, I'm gonna lose a lot of friends who are gonna pick on me. So HK. So if you carry a modern firearm, as long as you take care of that firearm, it's not a lemon for whatever reason. As long as you carry that firearm, the chance of it having a malfunction caused by something in the firearm is going to be pretty low.
Yeah.
We're blessed to live in an era now where firearm design has come such a long way, really.
Yep.
If you have a malfunction, if you have a malfunction today, chances are that's going to come from the magazine.
Yeah.
So, if you see me out and about, chances are I have a loaded pistol on me and I have a spare magazine.
Yeah.
So, the quickest way to clear malfunctions is get rid of that magazine. You got one hand you're working with, your spare mag, is still in the pocket or on your hip, wherever you carry your spare mag. The mag that was in the gun, it's now on the ground.
Yeah.
You have a hand to hold the firearm, and you have a hand to clear the malfunctions. You're not trying to hold on to that mag, so you can clear your malfunctions, rack and slide a couple times, get your new mag out, put it in the firearm, rack and slide, and you can get back in the fight. So, carrying 2 mags again, that's just a security blanket. We don't. I try and tell people I don't need 40 rounds to stop a threat. I hope I never need 40 rounds.
That's a pretty bad situation.
If I'm ever in a situation where I need to use my firearm, I don't want to have to need 40 rounds for that.
Right. I carry multiple mags because I'm in Massachusetts. We have a 10-round mag capacity, and so it's considerable disadvantage. I guess
you got to get moved back to God's country, man. Massachusetts ain't no fun. So, but you don't carry a mag because you're gonna need 40 rounds. You carry a mag because it's a security blanket. If you have a malfunction, get rid of that mag. Get it out of the gun, leave it there on the ground, and then go on and put your fresh mag in. And then, high stress situations, we see law enforcement officers, they drop their mags in the middle of gunfights all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think law enforcement officers have enough training.
We were talking about a little bit of that on the phone too. Yeah.
Usually law enforcement, 50 to 150, 200 rounds a year is all they're required to shoot. And, there's a lot of law enforcement officers that just aren't gun guys.
Yeah.
It's just another tool for the job. So,
yeah. And then we were also talking about the that close quarters combat type of situation, like that's usually quite undertrained. Why does it take 7 guys to flatten a guy?
I worked at a psychiatric center, and we were pretty well staffed. Compared to the rest of the prison, and we would have sometimes 3 guys, one in the control room, and then one on one side and one on the other, and you got 24 guys, and things could get hairy pretty quick. So you had to be able to, you had to be able to defend yourself with your hands. And, because it was a psychiatric center in a prison, we had to kind of take everything with kid gloves. We couldn't do what Department of Corrections next door and Luther Luckett were able to do. But the guys over in Luther Luckett, there was one of them for 200 inmates. It was 2 of us to 24. Or, that was if we were at full capacity at that time. So
Yeah.
There's, I think, Hanover, Indiana. Last I heard, they had hired a childhood friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Still friends with him on Facebook. And last I seen, he got hired into Hanover, Indiana Police Department.
Yeah.
And he was their jiu-jitsu trainer. That's what he does. And I think that every department needs, every officer needs to learn some independent skills. Because
getting control of a out of control perpetrator is really important. Without using a firearm.
That firearm should be the last thing you even think about.
Yeah.
And really, pepper spray and a taser. I mean, I know a lot of law enforcement officers, and they'd be fine with not having with only using open hands, for the vast majority of the situations they're caught in. But there's I just think that law enforcement, they need more training.
Yeah.
I hope that some funds start to become available where they do that. I know a friend of mine over in Spencer County, he's working on some things. Hopefully get some grants in, and I hope so. Great sheriff's department over there. He's a great sheriff, but this was a bad situation all around.
Yeah.
What's happening in Minneapolis is a bad situation, period. I mean, even I think that I'm trying to watch my words because I don't want to get sued or get a nasty, letter from an attorney.
Right.
I think that a lot of what we're seeing in Minneapolis right now is because there's a lot of fraud. It's a lot easier.
They're on the defensive for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely on the defensive. And I think a lot of the politicians there, both local and federal politicians, are kind of saying, hey, we need to pay more attention to what's over here than what's over here. And what's over here is some people that needs to be, taken out of the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they're focusing all their efforts on instead of the, I think it's $19 billion.
Right.
In fraud right now, which is
which
terrible.
is crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I saw something where Trump put out. He's like, they came over here with nothing, and somehow they stole $19 billion. It's like,
now they're living better than I am.
Right?
I got 2 companies and 2 jobs. So
right. Yeah.
I'm constantly doing something. They're living better than me, which hey, that's the American dream as long as you do it lawfully.
Lawfully, that's the stipulation right there.
A lot of them really doing that lawfully right now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I do think that's a small portion of the people that comes
of course,
especially legally, so I think that Governor Walz is just as much to blame with Mr. Pretty's death as Mr. Pretty and Border Patrol.
Yeah, they've incited a lot of this,
he's incited
protesting
a lot, and I try not to watch the news. I try not to get on Facebook very much just because it's too stressful. It's depressing.
It's a rabbit hole. I find it to be a time suck if I'm on comments too much.
It's depressing. I don't like to be depressed, so I try to stay off there as much as possible. Our there's spots in our country that's really gone to the wayside there. So, but you can't incite violence and then be appalled when violence happens. So,
Yep.
But, at the same time, like I said, I still think that Mr. Pretty should be alive today. I think he should definitely be in jail.
Yeah. Yep.
But I do think, Sunday morning quarterbacking this, or Monday morning quarterbacking it, I do believe that he shouldn't have been shot unless there's a video out there I haven't seen, whether it's a body cam or another angle somewhere. So, that's pretty.
Yep.
It's a tragic situation.
Yeah.
Regardless,
So I really appreciate you coming on the the show and just getting because we hear a lot of a lot of the left and a lot of obviously a natural inclination to rise up and defend ICE, but hearing that balanced perspective is also important, so we can keep in mind that that here's a guy who had 7 dudes on him, and
Yeah.
and he's still like,
Yeah, they
kicking
still
back,
shoot
but
him
then they still shoot him, right? Yeah,
with broken ribs. Yeah, it's
right.
terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
like I said, I support 100% what ICE is doing. I think
right.
that Border
Yep.
Patrol and ICE should have been in there a long time ago, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think it could be hit a lot harder. There's
Right.
millions and millions of illegal aliens here, and we don't know what their intentions are. If it's just to come over here for a better life, or if they're come over here to hurt Americans, and
Right.
we don't. We
Yeah, we
have
had an
no.
open border for years. Yeah.
Yeah, we had an open
Yeah.
border for 4 years, so and it was wide open. So
Yeah.
there's Miss Sarah Adams. She does a lot on YouTube. She's talked about there's thousands of uh, Islamic terrorists that
Yeah.
cross the border illegally with weapons.
Yeah.
So I think that all these people, if you come here illegally, that's against the law. You should face
Yeah.
the consequences for your actions. If I'm out speeding, I'm gonna get a ticket.
Yeah.
If I go get in a fight, I'm gonna get put in jail for assault, or
Yeah.
if I cross into Canada illegally, I'm gonna get deported back to the United States.
Yeah. And because we
So
know that there are people who want to come here to, to drag America down, I think people that come over here illegally and are caught here, they should be deported and not be allowed back, like
immediately.
ever. Yeah. It's because
Yeah.
it's not worth it for us to financially dig into why were they here, and that's an investigation. Now we're spending money on trying to figure out why they even came here and whether or not they can come back. I think it's just be an automatic, the chance for you to come here is done,
Yeah.
and then that detracts people from even trying.
Yeah, there's asylum seekers out there, and they should be allowed in the country.
Yeah, yeah.
If we deem it after an investigation that they have a legitimate right to claim asylum, but a lot of people are claiming asylum and there's no reason to.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't want to end up like Europe, and I don't need to tell
like Europe.
I don't need to tell any conservative that, but
we severed that a long time ago in 1776. We don't need to. We don't want to end up like Europe. We don't want to end up like Europe then. We don't want to do it now.
Especially now.
Yeah, especially now. I wouldn't want to go right now.
Yeah, no, I know. I've been thinking that. I'm like, I've been in Madrid, and that was years ago. And I don't want to go to Europe. It used to be attractive, and I don't want to go there now.
Yeah, all the scammers, all the immigrants there. A lot of them are scammers now. And pickpockets and a lot of crime and graffiti and no-go zones. We don't want no-go zones in our country.
Right. Yeah.
I should be able to go into any town I want to and not have to worry about getting attacked because I don't agree, or I don't agree with their views on religion or politics or whatever. And since 2016, especially during the riots, the summer of love, we had in 2020, there's been areas in Portland, that law enforcement are allowed to go in. That's insane.
That is crazy. Yeah. Yep. And for Minnesota to even push away, ICE for as long as they did, I guess Waltz is now, probably out of self-preservation is now saying that he's going to work with.
I don't trust Waltz.
Right. Yeah.
As far as I could throw him, he's just trying to save his own skin.
Right. Yep.
I'm sure he's got some kickbacks out of that $19 billion, $9 billion, whatever it is. So he's trying to save his own skin, whatever he can do to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
Which, can't blame the guy for that, but you don't have to ruin our country because you don't want to go spend 2 years in jail for stealing my tax dollars.
Yeah. I saw something where he said he's not going to run for any public office again. I'm like, good.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. We don't need tampon Tims out there running the country. So.
Yep. Casey, again, thanks for coming on. And can you tell us more about concealed tactics?
Yeah, so started in 2018. Really, it was just to do concealed carry classes at the gun shop I was working at the time. Aaron Reed owned that gun shop. He's now a state senator here in Kentucky. Great guy, Navy SEAL veteran. Done a lot of stuff. Got a lot of kids. Great dad, great businessman, and right now he's being pretty decent politician.
Yeah.
And I don't say that about very many politicians. So he's doing a pretty good job as a politician, which, we need more of. We need more people that'll do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
You don't have to be excellent. You just need to do a pretty good job.
Yep.
So far, he's doing a really good job. But just doing concealed carry classes there at the gun shop. It was off supply at the time. It's now OEM Arms.
Yep.
He sold it to the guy that ran it, which is another friend of mine, Truman. So Aaron at the time, he owned Op Supply and Ops United and Kodiak Coating. He does Cerakote on guns and stuff. And,
okay.
And, a little bit of gunsmithing here and there. Chances are, if you've ever gotten a Glock from Lipsy's that was Cerakoted, he Cerakoted it, or some of his employees, maybe me.
Yep.
I worked there for a while, Cerakoting some Glocks and some AR-15s, some Benelli shotguns and things. But so just have to plug my people. So he had Ops United, which was a training company, and he was training people. I built him a shoot house.
Yeah.
That's actually how we met. I heard he needed a shoot house.
Yeah.
I went over and offered to do it, and then I was kind of like a dog. He fed me, and I didn't leave. So, I've been there, in and out of there, ever since. And so he trained people. What he knew as a Navy SEAL, he'd done a lot with me, taught me a whole bunch, and then I'm just trying to pass that on and trying to learn as much as I can and pass that on. So we do concealed carry classes, obviously. Then we do defensive pistol.
Yeah.
Like I said, scoped carbine and red dot carbine.
Okay.
I got a real good friend of mine. He's got 500-acre range or 500-yard range.
Okay.
About 150 acres. He's got a big pistol. He's got a pistol pit. And, he's probably got $10,000 worth of steel. And then I bought a bunch of rifle steel to put out there. So, I bring in guys that can definitely shoot better than me to kind of show you what I can't. And we do it cheap. The reason we do it cheap is if I was trying to get rich, I wouldn't do that. I'd be a politician. So,
in Minnesota?
I'd be a politician in Minnesota. We do a lot of we want to do more rifle, but again, it's hard to get people to do rifle. They'd rather learn with their pistol. And if you're only going to take one class, I'd rather it be a defensive pistol class.
Yeah.
But we do shoot out to 500 yards, scoped rifle. We usually shoot out to about 150 to 200.
Yeah.
With red dot, we bring that all the way into 7, 15, 30 yards.
Yeah.
Pistol, we do a lot of it's gonna be a lot of shoot and move, clear malfunctions, doing reloads. I'm gonna put you on a buzzer, put you on a timer as much as possible. I want you to be able to do it quick and safely. So, we start slow and go as fast as we can there towards the end. And then, I always try and give out a little prize, a couple boxes of ammo or something for, whoever had the best time in the class or whatever. We always try and have a fun little competition there at the end of class, on the defensive pistol, rifles, stuff. We try and do something. So, give them something. Like I said, we don't charge a lot. Just get out there.
And you mentioned that you're also working with officers. What in terms of police stations and things like that?
So,
what's that look like?
We had a shooting here, sadly, in Louisville several years ago. I'm trying to think when it was. It was probably 2019, 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. Scum of the earth walked into a Kroger, shot a lady in the head, shot a gentleman in the head with his he was with his grandson. It was just because of the color of their skin. The reason he done it. He walked out, got into a shootout with an armed civilian in the parking lot. They both missed a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Everybody missed. Luckily, they missed innocent, bystanders too. But the team that was called to, go take care of him at that time was the was the J-Town Special Operations Group, which is kind of like a sorry,
not a problem.
Kind of like a small SWAT unit.
Okay.
They're in St. Matthews and J-Town area.
Yeah.
Aaron trained them once a month, I think it was, in the shoot house.
Yeah.
Their mayor actually got rid of them. The new mayor got elected. He kind of disbanded the SOG unit.
Yeah.
Dumb move because they had one of the only female snipers in the state of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Awesome lady. Met her. They had some real good guys that didn't want to use your weapons, but by God, if they had to, they were
Right. They knew how to do it.
I'd want to come save me,
Right.
On a bad day,
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've done that. Got some working with a couple sheriff's departments here in Kentucky.
Okay.
Trying to get some classes written up for them.
Yeah.
One of them hopefully is going to be moving to red dots. I'm a big proponent of putting red dots on your handguns.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna train them to use your red dots. It's a little bit different. So
Yeah.
we're gonna hopefully get them trained up to use the red dots, and then hopefully I'm not gonna charge law enforcement anything. Those are the guys that are guys and gals that's gonna be called out.
Right.
If something ever happens, I want those guys and gals to be trained up as best as possible.
Yeah.
And I hope that they get trained by somebody. It don't have to be me. There's a lot of really great instructors in our area.
Yep.
Just go across the bridge into Indiana. There's a DevGru guy over there that does stuff, and Army Special Forces guys that do things. Just right here. So, within a couple miles of Louisville, you go up into I think Edinburgh, Indiana.
Yep.
There's a Navy SEAL that does some training up there.
Okay.
Well, so there's a lot of really good instructors in our area, and I tell everybody, if you don't want to come to me, don't come. You're not going to hurt my feelings one bit.
But get trained.
Yeah, just get trained, because more people out there that are trained and are responsibly and lawfully carrying a firearm, that makes me safer when I can't carry a firearm for work, or if my wife or kids, or my buddy, anybody. It makes everybody a little bit safer. An armed society is a safe.
Yeah.
The police society. There we go.
Yeah. There's that story about Abe Lincoln that he had insulted somebody and had to do like a duel or something, and ended up, backing out of it. And not that we should necessarily go back to doing duels. That's not my point. But
there'd be a lot less offended people.
There would be a lot less offended people.
Memes that goes. There'd be a lot less offended people if we brought duels in next. Even if we brought back just, I think it's Oregon or maybe Washington State. They have a mutual combat law, so if you both agree to it, you can fight.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, that would be okay if you want to bring that back. Like Mr. Pretti, if he spit on somebody, I think that's
one of the officers wanted to take it up on him.
Yeah, you should be able to take your badge off and tune him up a little bit. So,
right.
You spit on me, I'm gonna tune you up. I'm gonna try to anyway. You might get me. I'm older now. But I'm not as fast or as tough as I used to be, but I'm gonna try real hard.
So, also, how can people reach out to you, Casey?
Facebook's usually the best way.
Okay. Concealed Tactics. All right. Sounds good.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, and
no
good
problem,
chatting.
man.
All right.
Yep.
Take care now.
Hey, we'll see you, buddy.
All right.